Party Line.
Welcome to the Paranormal Party Line. Are you just getting off work? Maybe you're tucking the kids in after a long day, or finally sitting down to relax with a hot cup of tea. Whatever it is, I'm so glad you've decided to spend this little slice of the night with me. Now, I hope you've got your seatbelt fastened because tonight we're diving deep into the unknown. I've got some brave callers lined up to share their spine-tingling stories, real-life encounters with the strange and the unexplained. So, turn off the lights, snuggle in tight, and let's get ready to unravel the mystery together. This is Paranormal Party Line, and the airwaves are all yours tonight. So, who's ready to share? Stay tuned to find out. I hope you've settled in because we've got a very special guest on the line tonight. Big Ray Carter has been driving the highways for years, and he's no stranger to the strange things that can happen in the dead of night when you're out on the road. Ray, my friend, welcome to the Paranormal Party Line. Tell me, what's been keeping you up at night lately?
Hey there. Well, it's been a long one. You know, after all these years on the road, you start to think you've seen it all. But what happened to me last month, hell, I ain't been able to shake it.
That's always how it starts, right? That gut feeling. So what happened next?
Well, I was coming up on this old stretch of road near a place called Dead Man's Gulch. The lights from my truck illuminated the road ahead, but then it looked like someone was standing at the side of the road, just standing there. Didn't move when I got closer.
Wait, standing still? In the middle of nowhere? What did you do, Ray?
I slowed down, figured maybe it was some hitchhiker or something, but as I got closer, I could see something wasn't right. This guy, well, I don't know if it was a guy, was wearing an old tattered coat, but his face, it was like a blur. And then the weirdest thing happened. My truck's lights flickered, and when I looked back, the man was gone.
Just gone? That's unnerving, but Ray, you said the air felt heavy. Did that feeling stick around after that?
Yeah, that's the thing. It didn't go away. For the rest of the drive, the air felt thick, almost suffocating. And that damn figure, I swear, I kept seeing him in my mirrors, watching me as I drove. I couldn't shake the feeling I was being followed.
Oh, Ray, that sounds like something straight out of a nightmare. You know, it's funny. You hear about these ghostly figures on the side of the road, but when you're living it, that's a whole other story.
I don't know what it was, but I haven't been able to drive that stretch of highway since. Something about that place, that man, or whatever it was, still haunts me.
Well, Ray, I'm just glad you're okay. Whatever it was, it sounds like you were lucky to get away. Thank you for sharing that with us tonight. Stay safe out there on the road, all right?
I'll try, but I'm staying far away from Dead Man's Gulch for sure. I appreciate you letting me tell my story.
Of course, Ray. And to everyone listening, remember, sometimes the creepiest things are the ones you can't explain. Stay tuned, folks. We've got more eerie encounters coming up. Don't go anywhere.
Paranormal Party Line.
Paranormal Party Line, the place where the strange meets the unexplained and where no question is too bizarre. It's late, the world is quiet, but we're still here keeping the lights on for you. Tonight, we're talking about the kind of story that gets under your skin. Not because it jumps out at you, but because it lingers. The kind of story you think about when you hear a knock at the door late at night and suddenly don't feel so sure about answering it. I'm talking about the black-eyed children. Now, we've all heard the typical encounters. 2 kids show up, ask to come inside, and whoever lets them in, well, let's just say they don't tend to have a happy ending. But tonight, we have a caller with a different kind of story. A story that, to my knowledge, has never been told before. We have Elaine on the line. Elaine, you're live on Paranormal Party Line. What happened?
Hey, thank you for taking my call. I've been holding on to this story for years and I've never shared it. Not because I didn't want to, but because, well, who would believe me?
Oh, you'd be surprised what people are willing to believe at this hour. Go ahead, we're all ears.
All right. This happened back in 2004. I was living in a small town in Montana, just me and my daughter. She was about 6 at the time. Our house was on the edge of a wooded area. Not completely isolated, but let's just say, if you screamed, it would take a while for someone to hear you. One night, around 11 p.m., I was sitting in the living room reading when I heard a soft knock on the front door. It was gentle, too gentle for a person in distress. I almost didn't hear it at all. I got up, looked through the peephole, and I saw a boy, maybe 10, maybe younger. He had a hoodie pulled up over his head, and he was just standing there, staring at the door. I cracked it open just a little and asked if he was lost, and then he said something that still haunts me.
What did he say?
He said, "She's not your daughter." Now, I don't know how to explain this, but when he said that, it didn't feel like a child speaking. It was flat, like someone reading from a script. No emotion, no curiosity, just stating a fact. I didn't even know how to respond. I just stared at him, and then he lifted his head and I saw them, his eyes, solid black like 2 pits of ink.
That's the moment you shut the door, right?
You'd think, but I was frozen, not scared, not even shocked, just numb, like something was pressing down on my mind, keeping me from reacting. And then, from behind me, I heard my daughter's voice. She had woken up and was standing at the top of the stairs, rubbing her eyes. She saw the boy and asked, "Mommy, who is that?" The second she spoke, it was like the spell broke. I slammed the door, locked it, and ran to her. My heart was pounding. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in her room, holding her hand, listening. But the boy never knocked again. The next morning, I did what any mother would do. I asked her if she had ever seen that boy before. And you know what she said?
I'm almost afraid to ask.
She said, "Yeah, Mommy, he comes to my window sometimes, but he says I'm not supposed to tell you." I moved us out of that house within a month. I don't know what that boy was or what he wanted, but I do know one thing. That was not a child. And whatever it was waiting for something.
Elaine, that's one of the most unsettling black-eyed children encounters I've ever heard, and I've heard a lot. The thing that gets me is that phrase, "she's not your daughter." What does that mean? Was it trying to plant doubt? Or did it know something you didn't? Either way, I think you did the right thing by leaving. Some doors are meant to stay closed. Thank you for sharing that. really. And for all my listeners out there, if you hear a knock at night and the person on the other side seems just a little too still, a little too wrong, maybe don't answer it. We're going to take a quick break, let that one sink in, but don't go anywhere. Because when we come back, I have another story that might just change the way you look at your own reflection. Good evening, my night owls, my seekers of the strange, my lovers of the eerie and unknown. You're listening to Paranormal Party Line, where we open the door to the shadows and let the stories speak for themselves. I'm your host, Celeste. We've got a caller on the line who has a chilling tale to tell about a childhood toy, a simple mirror, that turned into something far more sinister. You're live on the air, caller. What's your name?
You can just call me M. And, this is a story I've never told anyone before. But after hearing the other callers tonight, I feel like I need to get this off my chest.
Take your time, M. We're listening.
Alright. So this happened when I was 16. My little sister Lily had just turned 7, and my mom got her this Barbie vanity mirror from a thrift store. You know the kind, plastic, pink, covered in fake jewels, the kind of thing a little girl would go crazy over. She loved it, spent hours in front of it, talking to herself, playing dress up. But then, things started getting weird. One night, I heard whispering coming from Lily's room. At first, I thought she was just playing, but the whispers were fast, urgent, like there were two voices. I peeked in and she was sitting in front of the mirror, just staring. But her reflection, it was moving on its own, whispering. I felt sick, like my stomach just dropped into my feet. I called her name and she flinched like I'd snapped her out of something. When she turned to look at me, she seemed dazed. Her face was pale, eyes too wide. And then she said, "Go away."
Go away? Just like that?
Yeah, and I should have pushed harder, but I didn't. I just walked away. But the next night, I woke up to giggling. Not the happy, little kid kind. This giggle was low, scratchy, like something trying to sound like a child, but not quite getting it right. I followed the sound back to her room, and I swear, when I looked in, she was copying her reflection, but it wasn't her reflection. It looked like her. Same blonde curls, same pink pajamas, but the eyes were black, just holes, empty. And the thing in the mirror, it was smiling. That was the first night she told me about the game.
The game?
She called it Mirror Says, like Simon Says. She said it told her what to do and she had to copy it exactly. And if she didn't, bad things would happen.
Children and their games. Sometimes they open doors they don't mean to.
Yeah, and the door was wide open. The next morning, she wasn't my sister anymore. She wouldn't eat, wouldn't play, just sat in front of the mirror, silent. When I begged her to stop, she finally turned and said, "She won't let me." I asked who she meant, and she said, "The girl in the mirror." I didn't know what to do. My mom thought it was just a phase, But that night, I woke up to something scratching at my door.
Scratching?
Yeah, soft at first, then harder, like claws. I held my breath, listened, and then, right outside my door, I heard Lily's voice. She doesn't like you. I didn't sleep after that. The next morning I made up my mind. I had to get rid of that mirror. I snuck into her room and grabbed it while she was asleep. It was heavy, heavier than plastic should be. The air around it felt thick. I took it to the backyard, grabbed a hammer and hesitated. And then, just for a second, I saw a girl in the reflection, standing behind me, black eyes grinning, too many teeth. I swung the hammer. The mirror shattered, and the screaming started. But it wasn't coming from Lily. It was coming from the glass. It was this high-pitched, inhuman wail, like it was being torn apart. I fell to my knees, hands over my ears, just praying for it to stop. And then, it was gone. When I ran inside, Lily was lying on the floor, unconscious. I thought she was dead. But then she gasped and sat up, blinking. Her eyes were blue again, and she looked at me like she didn't remember a thing.
And she never did she?
Not a single memory. Mom never questioned it. She threw out every mirror in the house after that, just in case. But sometimes, when I'm alone, I still hear it. That giggle, that whisper, and when I walk past a mirror, I never look too long. Because I know, she's still there, and she's waiting.
Thank you for sharing your story. I can tell it still weighs on you. Haunted objects have a way of leaving their marks, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
To all my listeners out there, maybe tonight, before you go to sleep, you should cover your mirrors, just in case. Welcome back, my night owls. Whether you're just getting home from a long shift, settling in after tucking in the little ones, or simply looking for some company in the quiet of the night, you're in the right place. This is Paranormal Party Line, where we share the stories that keep us up at night. And tonight, I have a caller named Claire, who has a story that, well, let's just say it might change the way you look at the woods outside your window. Claire, sweetheart, you're on the line. Tell us what happened.
Hi. Thank you for having me. I just want to say, this isn't easy to talk about. I don't really tell people this story because, well, I don't think they'd believe me. But I need to tell someone.
Oh, honey, you're in a safe space here. Take your time.
Okay. So, I grew up in a town called Briar Glen, except, well, you won't find it on a map. It's not there anymore. It's like it never existed.
That's unusual. A whole town just gone?
Gone. Like it was erased. But it was real. I lived there my whole childhood. It was a quiet, isolated place. No phones, no internet, no outside world. Just the community. That's what we called it. And it was led by a man named Elias.
Elias, was he some kind of religious leader?
Not officially, but the way he spoke, the way he knew things, you couldn't help but believe him. He told us we were special, that we had been chosen, and that we were being protected by something ancient, something he called the Watchers.
The Watchers. I can already tell this isn't going to be good.
No, it wasn't. At night, we weren't allowed to close our curtains. We had to leave them open so the Watchers could see us. If we didn't, people disappeared.
Oh, sweetheart, that must have been terrifying. Did you ever see them?
Yes. Every night. They stood at the tree line. Tall. Too tall. Their limbs too long, their heads tilted like they were listening. And their faces, it was like they were searching through expressions, trying to find the right one, but never quite getting it right.
My goodness, that's chilling. And no one questioned this?
We couldn't. Elias said questioning meant we weren't grateful, and the ungrateful were taken.
That's not protection, darling. That's fear.
Yes, and when I turned 18, I was told it was my turn to be chosen.
Oh, Claire, what did that mean?
I didn't know, and I didn't want to find out. But that night, Elias came to my house with my parents. Their eyes weren't theirs anymore, just black, hollow, and he smiled and said, "The Watchers have chosen you." I knew if I stayed, I wouldn't wake up in the morning.
So you ran?
Yes, and they followed. The moment I stepped outside the town's border, the air changed, like it was thick, pushing back against me. Then I heard it. This deep, wet, clicking sound, like something trying to form words but not knowing how.
I don't even have words.
I turned back just once, and they were right behind me.
But you made it. You're here. How?
I don't know. A trucker found me miles away, screaming, covered in scratches. When I told the police, they searched for Briar Glen, but there was nothing there. Just forest.
Claire, I don't know what you saw, but I believe you. I really do. And I need you to promise me something, sweetheart. If you ever hear that clicking again, you don't go looking for it. All right?
I promise. But sometimes, when I'm alone at night, I feel them watching.
Oh, my dear listeners, if that doesn't make you check your windows tonight, I don't know what will. Claire, thank you for trusting us with your story. And to all of you out there, have you ever seen something you weren't supposed to? Felt eyes on you when no one was there? If you have, I want to hear about it. Call in and let's talk about it. Because sometimes the things we don't understand, they understand us just fine. All right, folks, don't go anywhere. Coming up next, we've got another caller with a story that'll keep you up tonight. Stay tuned and keep your lights on. All right, we're back with another caller, and if you thought the last story was wild, buckle up because this one might just make you rethink everything you know about fame. Let's go to the lines. We've got Mel on the phone. Mel, you're live on Paranormal Party Line. What's your story?
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me. This is something I haven't talked about in a long time, but I guess I feel like it's time.
Take your time, Mel. We're listening.
I used to date this guy. We were together since high school. Childhood sweethearts, you know. When we got older, I was working and putting myself through school, and he was working full-time at AutoZone while chasing his dream, rapping. We weren't rich, but we made it work. We lived together, and I supported him as best as I could. Then, one day, out of nowhere, he got this DM from a woman. She said she was an assistant to a huge producer who had heard his music and wanted to fly him out to LA to talk business. I remember how excited he was, but also kind of nervous. Like, we always talked about him making it, but this was fast, too fast.
That's a dream come true for a lot of people. Did he tell you much before he left?
At first, yeah, he told me everything. He was giddy like a kid. He said they booked the flight, hotel, everything. But the moment he landed, it was radio silence. I texted him, called him, nothing, for 3 whole days. And look, I get it. He was busy, networking, all that, but something about it felt off.
3 days is a long time to go without a single message. What happened when he finally got back?
That's when everything changed. He was different. He looked the same, but it was like something was missing, or something else was there. He'd get these random bursts of anger over the smallest things, like dropping his keys or the TV being too loud. And at night, he started sleepwalking.
Sleepwalking? That's not that uncommon. Was it something more than that?
Oh, it was way more than that. The first time it happened, I woke up to this heavy feeling in the room. I turned over and he wasn't in bed. I found him in the living room standing there in the dark, just standing, breathing real slow. And then he started whispering. But it wasn't words, it was gibberish. Or maybe another language, I don't know. I called his name, but he wouldn't respond. And then just like that, he turned around and walked straight back to bed like nothing happened.
That must have been terrifying. Did he remember any of it the next morning?
No. And when I brought it up, he brushed it off. Said he was just tired. But it kept happening, and every time it got worse. He'd wake up with scratches on his arms, and he'd laugh, this weird, hollow laugh, while he was asleep. And then came the call.
The call?
Yeah, he was packing to fly back to LA, and I overheard him talking to that same assistant on the phone. She said, "Did you speak to him?" And then she said something like, "I don't hear it in the music yet. You need to connect with him." And the way she said it, it wasn't normal. It wasn't like she was talking about another person. It was like she meant something else.
Like a deal.
Exactly. That's when I straight up asked him, "Did you sell your soul?" And at first he laughed it off, got defensive, but I kept pressing, and finally, he admitted it.
Wait, he admitted it? What did he say?
He just looked at me and said, "It's not like that." But it was. He told me the producer wasn't just a producer. He was connected to something bigger, something powerful, that the contract wasn't just paperwork, and that the him they were talking about wasn't a man, that he had to give something up for success. And that's all he'd say.
And that's when you left?
That's when I left. I packed my stuff that night and never looked back. I didn't want to be around to see what happened next. A few years later, I saw him on TV, huge, all over the charts, and I knew why.
Mel, I don't even know what to say. That's one of the most chilling things I've ever heard. You got out just in time. But tell me, do you ever wonder what would have happened if you stayed?
All the time. And sometimes I wonder if he ever regrets it.
That's a heavy one, folks. A reminder that sometimes success comes with a price, and sometimes that price is too high. Mel, thank you for sharing that with us. I hope you found peace.
I have, but I still can't listen to his music without feeling sick.
I don't blame you. Well, my dear night owls, that's another call wrapped in whispers and shadows. Another voice from the unknown, sharing secrets we were never meant to hear. I hope you're warm, cozy, maybe curled up in bed with the lights just dim enough to keep the dark at bay. Because you never really know what's watching, do you? But before you drift off into the night, don't forget, there's always more to uncover, more voices waiting to be heard. So if you've got a story, a secret, a strange brush with the beyond, I'm always listening. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you never miss what lingers in the shadows. Follow, listen, and let's stay connected. After all, we're all just guests in this strange, spinning world. And who knows, maybe next time, it'll be your story we tell.
Paranormal Party Line.